Good afternoon, dear students. I am Ramanjanelu, TGT Social Studies from TTWRS Boys, Kodangal. Today I am here to teach you a topic. Before I start the topic, I would like to tell a story so that you understand the topic better. The story is about one day a teacher was explaining the topic of the air pressure in a classroom. There was a student sitting in the classroom backside. He was playing himself. The teacher found it and went up to him and asked, "What are you doing?" The student replied, "Sir, I'm just observing air pressure with a remote notebook." "You are observing air pressure with a remote notebook?" "Oh, that's fine. Then where is the remote notebook?" The boy replied, "Sir, I don't have any remote notebook now. I will invent in the future." "You will invent in the future? Then where is the notebook?" "I don't have the notebook also, sir. I will invent in the future." "You will invent it also in the future?" "Yes, sir." Then the teacher replied, "You do one thing. You leave the class now, go to home. You come to class only after inventing the remote notebook." "Are you an idiot or what? Don't you understand? Don't you know how to be in the classroom? You are good for nothing, man. You are good for nothing. Your mind full of trash or anything." The teacher scolded the student, and the student felt very sad and went home. He went home, knocked on the door. Mom, can you open up the door? Mom, are you there?" Mother opened the door, looked at his son and asked, "Why are you looking so dull?" He replied, "Mom, just leave it, Mom. I just get me some water." Then the boy was unable to concentrate on any work because whatever words said by his teacher were revolving in his mind. He was unable to forget it. But one thing he realized it what he wanted to find what he is good for, what is special for. That night all were having the dinner. The boy wanted to know what I'm good for, what I'm special for. Then he asked his father, who was sitting opposite to him, "Father, did you find any time what I'm good for, what I'm special for?" The father, who was already upset with some tensions, replied, "Are you an idiot or what? How many times I said you not to speak while eating? Just shut your mouth and eat." The boy again was upset. He was very sad. Here, the boy realized two conditions, two rules. One, which was told by the teacher in the classroom, that pay attention in the classroom. Two, said by his father, that do not speak anything while eating. The rules are okay, but this boy wanted to find something special, what I'm great for, what I'm special for. On the following day, he went up to his best friend. He had a friend called Ravi. He went up to his best friend and asked, "Ravi, you have been seeing me since many years. Did you any time find me what I'm good for, what I'm best for? Did you find anything special within me?" Then his friend Ravi, instead of replying him, he just stared at him and said, "I thought you are a good friend to me, man, but I never expected this from you. What did you do? You just stolen my pen. The pen in your pocket is a special gift to me given by my best friend Akshita. But you have stolen it. I have been searching for this pen since many days. You know, I thought you are good to me, but I never expected this." The boy Kritin was trying to convince that he did not steal the pen. Before he said something, he hid on a face, took the pen and left the place. Kritin realized rule number 3. Rule number 3 is, do not buy something that already whatever is there with our best friends. So these are some rules he is realizing that should be followed at the home, at the class and in the society. But he wanted to find actually what he is good for, what is special for. Though he asked his teachers, he asked his father and everyone, but no one could help him what is good for, what is special for. One day, he grew up in the society with the humiliations, he grew up in the society with the insults by taking someone's opinion as a reality on him. He thought whatever others are thinking about him is a real. He grew up in the society. After 5 years, one day he woke up, he stood in front of the mirror, looking at himself, took his right hand, kept on the heart, stretched his left hand, looked at the mirror and asked, "What I'm great for, what I'm special for." A voice came from inside of him and said, "You know, man, you are great. You have such a good voice. You are a great speaker. Then after few years, this boy became a great public speaker. Great public speaker inspiring thousands of the students. Great public speaker inspiring many people. You know, he also helped thousands of the students in realizing their dreams. He helped thousands of the students in understanding the problem. He helped thousands of the students in creating ideas. An idea can change your life. After 5 years, one day morning, the same class, same teacher was explaining the topic of the air pressure. The class was so silent, but the teacher heard some noise, papers movement in the classroom. Some papers are moving. So the class was silent. He wanted to find what it was. Teacher went just back. By the time he reached there was a man just pressed a button. When he pressed a button, something opened up into the head. It was a spring. Then a spring opened up. On the spring there is a book. This man is operating that book with the remote. The remote which had 2 buttons. Pressing the buttons, the pages are moving forward and backward. This is a great invention of this boy. Once who was told good for nothing. He invented that remote notebook. Whatever he said to his teacher one day. The teacher asked, "Who are you?" "Sir, I am a student. One day you told me, I was told that you are good for nothing. You asked me to leave the class and go home. You come to the class only after inventing the remote notebook. Today I have done it because the inspiration is you. So I wanted to dedicate this remote notebook to you. This was a great invention." Here I told you a story. In this, the boy realized, this Kritin realizes some rules to be followed at the home. I told you the first one, which was told in the classroom by the teacher, that pay attention in the classroom. Number 2, whatever father said, do not speak anything while eating. Number 3, whatever he understood by his friend, do not buy anything similar to our best friend's things. So these are the rules. You know, there are also some rules at the home, at the school, in the society to be followed. But these are not written anywhere. Are they written anywhere? No, we just follow because our elders say us to follow. We have something where there are the rules and regulations written in a book. We are going to discuss about this book. This book is the Indian Constitution. To govern a vast country of India, we need some rules and regulations to be followed. These are written in a book. It's called Indian Constitution. I told you a story where the boy Kritin was unique. Kritin was unique, but no one understood him. Kritin was unique, but no one could help him. Kritin was unique, but no one could encourage him. But I am going to tell about something which is also unique, which you can understand, which is also unique, which you can read it, which is also unique, which helps you to do something. So this is, the unique thing is Indian Constitution. Now let us start the topic, the Indian Constitution. What is the word constitution? The word constitution means a system of laws by which a country is governed is called constitution. I repeat once again, constitution means there are some rules and regulations that I told you formally, but a system of laws by which a country is governed is called constitution. You know, when we study about the Indian Constitution was drafted under very difficult circumstances. There were very difficult circumstances. Now we study what were the difficult circumstances. Before we study the different difficult circumstances, first we need to understand what is the meaning of the circumstance. The word circumstance. Circumstance means an action that affects a situation, or the way something happens is called the circumstance. We have difficult circumstances. Now I am going to tell, just listen up. Number 1 is literacy levels and education were very low in our country. Just you look here. Number 1, I told you literacy levels and education were very low in our country. So when we discuss about these circumstances, literacy rate. You know, in 1947, the literacy rate of India was just 12%. which means in 1947, the literacy rate of India was just 12%, which means out of 100 people educated, out of 100 people, only 12 people were able to read and write by understanding in any language. We call it as a literacy rate. So, why literacy rate is very crucial, why education is important in a democracy? You know, in a democracy, people's role is very crucial, very important. Why it is important? People's role, citizens' role is not just ended after electing their representatives. In a democracy, people elected their representatives for every 5 years through the general elections. Their role is not just ended after electing their representatives to the people's houses. But, you know, people must involve in making decisions. The citizens should follow, citizens should involve in making decisions. Citizens should involve expressing their opinions. Citizens should express their views and opinions on the laws that are made in the country. But how can it be done? It can be done only if people are educated. It can be done only if people are aware of the laws. You read the newspaper every day and you watch the news. You understand what is happening in the country, and you know whomever you have elected your representatives, what are they doing? What are the decisions taken by them? You discuss. So that you are called a responsible citizen. In a democracy, representatives are accountable to the people, citizen, when only people have responsibility in a democracy. That we discuss. So the difficult circumstances that we study is a literacy rate, which was crucial. Number 2, I tell you about the famine. You know, there was acute shortage of the food and lakhs of the people, acute poverty was there in the country and lakhs of the people died of the famine. What is the meaning of the word famine? Famine means a situation where many people do not have any food to eat. They don't have the food to eat, so that they suffer. It may cause to their death also. You know, in 1770 Bengal famine, about 10 million people lost their lives. 1866 Ganjam famine, thousands of the people died of the starvation. Thousands of the people died of starvation in 1866 Ganjam famine. What is the word starvation here? The word starvation means, you know, suffering or a death caused by having nothing to eat is called starvation. So there were many famines happened in the history of India. 1943-45 Bengal famine. In 1943-45 Bengal famine, about 3 to 5 million people lost their lives because there was no food. In Kolkata city, thousands of the people left the villages. They came to the Kolkata, sat on the pavements, died there itself because they had huge self-respect and they don't know how to beg. There was no food to eat. As a result, they died. So these were the difficult circumstances that we are discussing. And you know, now question is, when you think about it, why there were the famines in the history of India? The reason is simple. Early rulers did not maintain the food supply in our country. They did not maintain the food supply. There was producing sufficient amount of food grains in the country is very important, essential. But that food security was not maintained by the early rulers who ruled till 1947. So because of that reason, there were many famines happened in the history of India. That is the reason, not to repeat such instances again in the independent India, today we have NFSA, National Food Security Act. Today we have midday meal program where school children get their food. Today we have Anganwadi centers where children are provided with a nutritious food. Today we have ration shops where poor people get food grains at fair prices, at subsidized prices. These all programs we implemented to ensure food security in our country. So this is difficult circumstance. The third one that we discuss is about, India dependent on foreign nations even for its basic needs like food grains. By the time we attained freedom in India, there was no sufficient amount of food grains in the country. We used to import from other countries. Why it happened? It happened because the colonial rulers did not encourage Indian farmers to cultivate more food grains. We have many rivers in our country, we have fertile soils, today we are importing many food grains to other countries, but why we didn't have sufficient amount of food grains by the time we attained freedom? Because the farmers were encouraged to cultivate only the commercial crops like sugarcane, tobacco, cotton, etc. And they were not encouraged to produce the food grains. These are the reasons. So this, and not only this, our country was ruled by the Britishers for about 200 years. Whatever institutions established by the Britishers, they were not meant to develop our country. Just they established many institutions for their needs, not for the development of our country. And large part of India was ruled by the princely states. Just I'll show you a map. There you can see where large part of our country which was ruled by the, you can see, ruled by the princely states. So the next topic we study is about, there are different people and they have different developmental goals, different opinions, different aspirations and goals. When I say the word, different people have different opinions, different people have different goals, different people have different aspirations. In the same way, national movement leaders who struggled to get independence for our country also had different opinions and different goals. What does it mean? National leaders have different opinions how to make India a better society. Everyone has their own opinions and their goals and aspirations. Though they have different opinions, different aspirations and different goals, all these national leaders came together and agreed upon few points, few principles. So what are the principles that were agreed by the national movement leaders? Few I tell you. The first thing, all the national leaders who participated in the national movement believe that independent India would be governed according to the principles of democracy. They want democracy. They have seen a country for 200 years which was plundered, where people suffered a lot. So they don't want future India in the same way. So they want independent India would be ruled according to the principles of democracy. Number two, they agreed upon this point. Independent India would be governed according to the principles of democracy, in which everyone will be equal before law. It's called rule of law. There are many discrimination and there are many differences among the people. The Indian leaders thought, imagine the future India where there should not be any differences among the people, where we can achieve the equality among the people in the society. So they agreed upon independent India would be governed according to the principles in which everyone will be equal before law. People may belong to any region, any religion, any caste, any gender, all are equal before law. The laws which are made in independent India would be applicable equally for each and every citizen in the country. This is the first one. Second one. And the third principle that they agreed upon was independent India would be governed according to the principles of democracy, in which citizens will have fundamental rights. We have fundamental rights. Even today also we have fundamental rights. How many fundamental rights we have? 6 or 7. When Indian Constitution came into force in 1950, there were 7 fundamental rights. But today we have 6 fundamental rights. What are the 6 fundamental rights? Our national leaders imagine the future society with every citizen having and guaranteed fundamental rights. What are the fundamental rights? There are 6 fundamental rights that we have today. Number 1, right to equality. In India, everyone is equal. They may belong to any irrespective of caste, creed, race, region, religion. Everyone is equal before law. We call it as a rule of law. Second one, right to freedom. All people have complete freedom in the country. Number 3, right against exploitation, child labor, human trafficking. These all are abolished in our country. Number 4, right to freedom of religion. Citizens can follow any religion that they want. Complete freedom, they have to follow their own religion. Number 5, right to education and culture. To protect minorities in our country, Indian Constitution guaranteed the minorities can protect their culture and they can form educational institutions. Number 6, constitutional remedies. If there is any violation to the fundamental rights, they can claim through the constitutional remedies. In 1950, one more fundamental right was there, it was right to property. But right to property was removed from the fundamental rights in 1978 through the 44 Constitution Amendment Act. Now you think about yourself, just you find the reason, you find the answer why right to property was removed from fundamental rights. These are the fundamental rights. The next principle they agreed upon, independent India would be governed according to the principles of democracy, in which government will be formed by the general elections on the principle of universal adult franchise. Here you need to understand the word universal adult franchise. What is the meaning of universal adult franchise? Universal adult franchise means all citizens in the country have right to vote, all adult citizens, not all citizen, all adult citizen. All adult citizens have right to vote irrespective of their caste, creed, race, religion and gender. All adults get the right to vote. Here if I say adult means, what do you mean by the term adult? Who is treated as an adult? Now, every person who attained the age of 18 years is treated as an adult. But before 1988, adult means a person who attained the age of only 21 years. But this age for getting right to vote was reduced from the 21 years to 18 years through the 61st Constitution Amendment Act in 1988. In 1988, through the 61st Constitution Amendment Act, the age of voters was reduced from to get right to vote was reduced from 21 years to the 18 years that we are following today. Okay, in a country, everyone gets the right to vote after attaining the age of 18 years. That's fine. But I have a doubt here. The doubt is that if a person is mentally retarded, if a person is mentally unsound, do they get the right to vote? Does that person get the right to vote? Think. Here, why they declare certain age for getting right to vote means, because if we attain the age of 18 years only, we can make a choice to elect our representatives. This is the main reason for having certain age to get right to vote. But when I say about the mentally retarded people or mentally unsound people, they, according to the Representation of People Act RPA 1950, according to section 16B, people are a person who is having unsound mind or mentally retarded. They do not get right to vote. Only people are sound mind get the right to vote after attaining the age of 18 years. So this is about the next principle that our leaders agreed upon. The next topic we study is about sources of inspiration and ideas for framing Indian Constitution. When we talk the topic about the sources of inspiration, I told you a story before where a boy called Kritin inspired thousands of the people after he became the public speaker. And he got inspiration from his teacher after facing the insults. Similarly, for doing any great thing in the life, there is an inspiration behind. Now we talk about what are the sources of inspirations and ideals for framing Indian Constitution. Our Indian Constitution leaders who prepared who framed the Constitution, they inspired from ideals of the French Revolution. French Revolution, one of the greatest revolutions that you already studied. They inspired from the French Revolution, where right to vote was permitted to only few section of the people. All people did not have right to vote. And they inspired from practice of democratic parliamentary in Britain. They inspired from Bill of Rights in the USA. They inspired from thoughts of Mahatma Gandhi. They inspired from many other national leaders. They also inspired from struggles waged by diverse kinds of the people to live in a better society. Their aspiration to have a better society in our country. So these all were the various sources of ideals and sources of inspiration for framing our Indian Constitution. Just you do remember them. Now, the next topic we have is about objectives resolution. What do you mean by objectives resolution? Objectives resolution means, just now I told you a few principles on which our national leaders agreed. Similarly, our national leaders also agreed upon some other basic principles like future India will be a socialist country, sovereign, democratic, republic, and we all strive to reduce inequalities in the society, and we all strive to provide better opportunity for all sections of the communities and reduce the inequalities among the people and uplift the people who were not given opportunity for the development. These all were written, agreed, these all principles were agreed upon our leaders is called objectives resolution. Objectives resolution was proposed by Jawaharlal Nehru in 1946, December 13. This objectives resolution is the guiding principle for framing our Indian Constitution. So now the next topic we study is about the Constituent Assembly. Just you see, Indian Constitution framed and prepared by Constituent Assembly. The Constituent Assembly was formed in 1946. It framed the Indian Constitution. Now, Indian Constitution was framed by Constituent Assembly. If I ask you a question, according to you, imagine no one prepared Indian Constitution, it is you have to decide a person or decide who to prepare Indian Constitution. If I ask you a question, whom do you select to prepare Indian Constitution? Because some students say, so they want intellectual people to prepare our Indian Constitution. They want educated people to prepare our Indian Constitution. Few say, we choose elected leaders, we choose national movement leaders, we choose everyone. But whatever you say, an educated people, if it is really prepared by only one person or few group of the people who have an idea of the laws and who read the constitution of other countries, they can't do justice. How? Because a person sitting in the Delhi, an educated people who is preparing something, he may not have idea what are the problems faced by the people of Telangana, what are their aspirations, what are their dreams. So in order to represent all parts of the country, when Indian Constitution was framing in 1946, it was very essential and compulsory to represent all parts of our country, to represent all sections of our country. That is the reason Indian Constituent Assembly had members who represented all parts of our country, who represented all sections of the Indian sections. Now, Indian Constitution, to elect members to the Constituent Assembly, in 1946 July, elections were held. Elections were held in 1946 July. 389 members were elected to the Constituent Assembly. Of these 389 members, 296 members were elected from the provinces and 93 members were elected from the princely states. When I say the word provinces and princely states. What do you mean by provinces and princely states? You know, British India consists of two parts. They were provinces and princely states. Provinces were those areas which were directly ruled by the Britishers. They ruled. Princely states were those areas which were ruled by the local rulers and kings. So, in 1946 July, when elections were held to the Constituent Assembly, 389 members were elected to the Constituent Assembly to frame Constitution. These 389 members represent all parts of our country, represent all sections of the country like Muslims, Sikhs, Hindus, SCs, STs, tribals, minorities, everyone, all sections. You know, of these 389 members, 296 members from the provinces are elected through the elections, but 93 members from the princely states were not elected. They were nominated by the heads of the princely states. Here is a question. Why do you think kings were given a chance to nominate some members to the Constituent Assembly instead of electing them? Just you try to find the answer for this question. You'll get some more information. Now, so I said some members were elected from the provinces, some were nominated from the princely states. Here you need to understand independent Indian Constituent Assembly. The Constituent Assembly had members. Some members were elected, some members were nominated. It had both members. So in 1947, the country was partitioned based on the relation. India and Pakistan was divided in 1947, August 15. After partition of the country in 1947, the Constituent Assembly also divided. Whatever number I told you before, 389. These 389 members in the United India before partition of the country. But after partition of the country in 1947, August 15, the Constituent Assembly also divided into the Indian Constituent Assembly and that of the Pakistan Constituent Assembly. After partition of the country of 389 members, Indian Constituent Assembly had 299 members. Of these 299 members, 229 members were elected from the provinces and 70 members were elected from the princely states. Not elected, nominated by the heads of the princely states. That's about it. And you know, when it is to be prepared the Indian Constitution, there are many tasks to deal with. To deal with different tasks, the Constituent Assembly appointed many committees. What are many committees? 8 were major committees. Of 8 major committees, one of the important committees was Drafting Committee. Drafting Committee was formed in 1949, August 29. August 29 to draft a constitution for India. The chairman of drafting committee was Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who played a key role, who played a crucial role for framing Indian Constitution. The drafting committee also had some 6 other members. Now, when I tell you about the framing of these laws and the committees, before that you need to understand one thing. When I tell you, just first you understand, drafting committee was formed in 1947, August 29th. This drafting committee, after formation of the drafting committee, there were the discussions and debates on every clause and section and article that included in the Indian Constitution, which means whatever they included in the Indian Constitution, like the clauses or articles, they all were discussed in the assembly. Constituent Assembly, they all were discussed and there were the debates and there were the discussions on them. Finally, after whatever debates happened in the Constituent Assembly, whatever discussions and debates, each and every word spoken in Constituent Assembly were recorded as the Constituent Assembly recordings. In order to understand the story, in order to understand the next topic, I would like to tell you a story so that you understand. Before that, I ask a question. Indian Constitution, after drafting committee, Indian Constitution adopted by the Constituent Assembly in 1949, November 26. And this constitution came into force from 1950 January 26. Constituent Assembly adopted the Constitution of India after framing the Indian Constitution. It adopted in 1949 November 26 and it came into effect in 1950 January 26. Just you find the reason why, though completion of the constitution completed in 1949 November 26, why they waited for 2 months. Just you find the reason. And now you may also get a doubt that whatever laws, whatever rules and regulations prepared in 1950, do you think these are also helpful? Do you think these are useful for the people who are living in the 2020 or who are living in the 2030 or living in the 2040? So according to the needs of the people, according to the needs of the society, laws will change. Laws which are made in 1950 may not be useful now. So Indian Constitution great feature is Indian Constitution also is a flexible where we can change some laws, rules and regulations according to the needs of the society and according to the needs of the people. Now I'll tell you a story, you understand. Just listen to this story so that you understand the next topic better. The story is about one day a man came from the office very tired. He sat in a sofa and asked his wife, honey, can you get me a towel? He called his wife as a honey. You know, most of the husbands in Indian society call their wives with different names. You just don't look up on me. I don't call with any names. Okay? Yes. This man came from the office tired. He sat in a sofa and asked his wife, honey, can you get me a towel? He repeated 2 times, but she did not get the towel. Immediately he thought, oh no, my wife is not responding. Immediately he called his family doctor. Doctor, my wife could not respond. I thought she became deaf. She got deaf. Then doctor asked, you do one thing. I'll suggest you, before I suggest you a hearing aid, I wanted to know the deaf level. So you do one thing, you do some deaf test. Is there a deaf test? Yes, there is a deaf test. What is a deaf test? The doctor told to the man to do it. The man, his wife was just cooking in the kitchen. The man, he is from the 40 feet distance. From the 40 feet distance, he asked his wife, honey, what are you cooking? He did not get any response. And he took 30 feet distance, asked his wife, honey, what are you cooking? He did not get any response. And he took 20 feet distance. He asked his wife, honey, what are you cooking? He did not get any response. Finally went up to her and asked, honey, what are you cooking? She replied, this is the 5th time I'm telling I'm cooking chicken. Expectations may not become reality. So in the story, this man thought wife is deaf, but finally what is proved? This man himself is a deaf. He got deaf. Expectations may not become reality. The expectation of this man is that his wife might have become deaf, but it is not fact. Expectations do not become reality. Similarly, when something need to be changed, it should be changed. Then only the society will be developed. Similarly, the major feature of Indian Constitution is a flexible. That means if there are any laws to be changed, amended, it can be amended easily. The word amend means we can change. Laws that are made in the Indian Constitution, we can amend them. We can amend them in the 3 ways. The first is called general amendment. In a general amendment, these laws can be made, these laws can be changed in the parliament by getting 50% of the majority, 1/2 of the 1/2 majority. And second amendment is special majority. In a special majority, laws are amended with the 2/3 majority, and there is also requirement of there is another amendment where laws are made with the special majority with the permission of the state assemblies. So we can change according to the needs of we can amend the constitution according to the needs of the people and needs of the society. This is about it. Now the next topic we study is about preamble. Already we studied about the objectives resolution, which was very important, where our national leaders agreed upon few principles. Preamble values that inspired our national movement are included in Indian preamble. If we understand the preamble, the words in Indian preamble starts with "We the people of India." So if we understand the words, if we understand the preamble, we can easily understand the main goal of the Indian Constitution, the main objective of the Indian Constitution. Just look, now let us discuss what are the words which are mentioned in the Indian preamble. The first thing is republic. What is the meaning of the republic? The word republic means India is a republic country. If I say India is a republic country, what do you mean by the word republic? Republic means where head of the country is elected by people, either directly or indirectly. Then we call that country as a republican country. India is a republican country because in India, president is elected indirectly by the people. So we say India is a republican country. When we see some other countries like the England, do you think England is a republican country? No, it's not a republican country. Why? In England also a democratic country, but it is not a republican country. What is the difference? In our country, president is elected by the people indirectly, but in head of the country is a president. But in England, head of the country is not prime minister. There is a queen. She had a hereditary position. In our country, India does not have any hereditary position for the head of the country. He is elected. So we say India is a republican country. The next word that is there in the Indian preamble is sovereign. What do you mean by the sovereign? Sovereign means when a country India has supreme powers to take decisions on internal matters and external matters of the country. When a country had complete rights, supreme rights to make decisions on internal and external affairs of the country, we call this as a sovereign country. India is a sovereign country because we have complete power, complete right to make decisions on the external as well as internal matters of the matters. The next word we discuss is about socialist. India is a socialist country. How and why? You know, the wealth generated in the country is equally shared among the people. In a socialist country, the constitution and the country strive to reduce inequalities among the people. It strive to reduce inequalities. You see, in a country, poor people they do not pay any tax, but the rich people pay the tax. Why? In order to reduce the economic inequalities in the country, we follow that rule. And the next word we discuss is about secular. What do you mean by the word secular? In our country, if I am a person, citizen, I have complete right, I have complete freedom to follow whatever religion I can follow. Secular means the government will not run basis of any religion. There is no religion which is favor to the government. It's called a secular country. India is a secular country because Indian government will not be run on basis of any religion. All religions are equal before government. Government is not favor of any particular religion, and citizens have complete freedom to follow their own religion. They can follow any religion they wish to follow. Hence we say the country is called secular country. India is a secular country. And the next word which is included in the Indian preamble is democratic. What do you mean by the democratic? The word democratic means democracy is a form of government in which people enjoy political rights. All people have political rights, equal political rights, and in a democracy people elect the representatives who make laws. These representatives make the laws. In a democracy, representatives hold accountability to the people, as I told you before. So India is a democratic country because all people in our country enjoy the equal political rights and they elect representatives who make the laws on the basis on the principle of universal adult franchise. The next word we have is justice. In India, no person is discriminated on the grounds of religion, on the grounds of the caste, on the grounds of the gender, on the grounds of race, on the grounds of the creed. Everyone is equal. Everyone have political and social equality in the country. So we strive to provide justice for every citizens in the country. The next word we have is equality. What do you mean by equality? Though Indian Constitution does not guarantee economic equality among all its people, it guarantees laws which are made in the country are applicable to all people equally. All citizens have the same laws. Everyone is equal before law. And all citizens will have a same opportunity in the country. So that is there in our Indian preamble. Next one is the liberty, freedom. In India, no citizen is imposed unreasonable in restriction. There are no restrictions on the people. You know, you studied in the history where thoughts of the people were controlled by the governments, by the rules and regulations. They did not have a freedom to think whatever they want. They did not have a freedom to think and express their opinion. But in our country, we have complete freedom to express your opinion, to think whatever the way you want. There are no restrictions in the way the people think. There are no restrictions in the way the people express their opinions. There are no restrictions in the way the people follow their religion. So complete liberty is there in Indian society. The next thing is a fraternity. Fraternity is a sense of bonding to unite all people in our country, in our society. It's like sense of brotherhood among the people in order to unite country. So fraternity improves, fraternity helps the country to be united. So these are the words which are included. When we understand these words which are included in the preamble of the Indian Constitution, we can really understand the goal and objective of the Indian Constitution. So the next topic we have is system of government. The system of government which is mentioned in independent Indian Constitution was parliamentary form of government. You know, the Indian Constitution mentioned form of government is a parliamentary form of government. Now we discussed what is the form of government that we have? Parliamentary form of government. In India, Indian Parliament has two houses, Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha. People elected the representatives to the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha members are elected by the state assemblies. Here, when I say parliamentary form of government, you know, America is also there. It is also a democratic country. It is also a republican country. But the form of government which is there in the America is the presidential form of government. Now we see it is very important to understand what are the differences between parliamentary form of government and presidential form of government. Now, if I tell you parliamentary form of government and presidential form of government, say it is America, this is India. presidential form of government and parliamentary form of government. In a presidential form of government, the head of the country is, the president is head of the executive. But in India, the head of the country, in India, head of the country is president. He is not head of the executive, but he is head of the state. And in presidential form of government, American president had secretaries under in charge of different departments. But in parliamentary form of government, we have ministers under in charge of different departments. This is the second difference. And third difference is that in the presidential form of government, the president does not have to bound to accept advice of his secretaries. But in India, the president has to accept the advice of ministers. This is the third difference. And in presidential form of government, the president can dismiss any of his secretaries anytime. But in a parliamentary form of government, the president do not have any right to dismiss ministers in our country. We have different ministers in our country. The president is just, he represents the nation, but he does not rule the nation in our country. Indian president represents the nation, but he does not rule the nation. He is not head of the executive, he is the head of the state, he is the first citizen of the country. So these differences you need to remember, important differences. What are the differences between presidential form of government of the USA with that of the parliamentary form of government in India? Four differences. In the presidential form of government, in the presidential system of government of the USA, president is head of the executive, and in a Indian parliamentary form of government, president is head of the state, he is not head of the executive. Government has three organs, they are executive, legislature, executive, judiciary. Legislature makes the laws, executive implements the laws, and judiciary protects the laws. Similarly, here Indian president is only the head of the state, he does not rule. Second one, there were no ministers in America. The head of the departments were not called in America, they were not called the ministers, they were called secretaries. Similarly, in India, the head of the in charges of various departments are called the ministers. We have HRD minister, we have defense minister, we have union home affairs minister. These all are the heads in charge of different departments in our country. And parliamentary form of presidential form of government, the American president does not accept, does not has to bound to the advice which is given by the secretaries, but Indian president has to bound to accept it, advice of the ministers. President can dismiss any of his secretaries at any time, but in India the president does not have that right, that power. Okay, so this just you look upon. And the next topic we study is Indian constitution also guarantees the federalism. What do you mean by the word federalism? Federalism means, in India we have central government and state government. Central government and state government. Central government is responsible for parliament and state government is responsible for state assemblies. So, to make laws in an entire country, the powers are divided among central government and state government. We call it as a federalism or federal form of constitution. Indian constitution provides powers to both central government and state government to make laws in the country. State government which is responsible for the assembly, central government which is responsible for the parliament. But we also have another form of constitution is called unitary constitution. In a unitary constitution, there is no central government. all the laws are made by only the central government, absent of duality. There are no two governments like the state government. All the powers are vested only with the central government. So if I say federalism, do you think Indian constitution, Indian system is completely federalism or unitary? Indian form of constitution, form of government is not completely federal, not completely unitary, because in India powers are distributed among the center and state, but in India central government exercises more powers than the state government. So we say it is some part federal, some part unitary. Okay, so just you look the project work that you need to do. You answer the question, why is it necessary that the elected parliament makes laws? You also make a project, prepare a mind map of your choice, highlighting the feature mentioned in the preamble of our constitution. Just you go do complete this, answer the question and do the project. I hope you enjoyed the class, you understood everything. Once again, if we revise the topics, we studied Indian Constitution, making of the Indian Constitution, what were the common principles that our national leaders agreed upon, sources of inspiration and ideas for framing Indian Constitution, objectives resolution and Constituent Assembly, and we also studied about preamble of Indian Constitution and words which are mentioned in the Indian Constitution like republic, sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, justice, equality and liberty, fraternity. So once again I revise the topic. Indian Constitution, as I told you, guarantees a federalism. So federalism means powers are distributed among the central government and state government. State government is responsible for making laws at the assembly, central government is responsible for making laws at the parliament. Okay, just you revise these topics, and I told you the differences between the parliamentary form of government and presidential form of government. Next, I would like to tell you about the, once again revise the topic objectives resolution. Objectives resolution was moved by Jawaharlal Nehru in 1946 December 13. This objective resolution is a some basic principles where our constitution leaders agreed upon. They agreed a few upon, like as we discussed, sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, republic. These all were agreed by them, is called objectives resolution. Once again I revise, objectives resolution is a guiding principle for framing Indian Constitution. Okay, and we also discuss one more topic is okay. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity to teach you the topic of the Indian Constitution. I hope you all understood the topic. Thank you so much.